Hey, welcome into the Audio Barnyard. I'm Donnie Barnes, voiceover talent and broadcaster with Don Barnes, expert ears at VOJumpstart.com. This is where we talk about some keys for success in spoken word audio and in life and what we're learning along the way. Today, we're going to talk about mentors. They're important, obviously. We know that in theory. We're going to talk about what we look for in mentors and how we find those mentors that can help show us the way to where we want to go in audiobooks, voiceovers, and life in general. So, Dad, I know you're a little older than me, not much, but just a little. You have some experience going back a few years with some really key mentors that shaped you, especially in your music career very early on. Why don't you tell people about that?
Yeah, so the first thing happened for me, I went and started drum lessons, and after a couple of weeks, my instructor that I started with moved to Los Angeles and actually played with the Village People, recorded with the Village People. He had been a good musician in Detroit and came out to LA. Well, the shop owner there and my mom they were talking while I was taking my lessons, and they felt really bad that a new kid started at age 14 and then got pushed off to a different teacher. So they gave me to the best guy in the shop. Happened to be a Juilliard grad who was playing on Motown things. And this gentleman started me on a path where when I'm 14, I start playing drums. I'm like every other 14-year-old. I don't know nothing. And by the time I was 16, 2 years later, at my high school, I was passing everybody. And they were all, who is this kid? Why? I was the only one taking private lessons. And Gene Stewart started me on this path that by the time I got out of high school, I'm looking around going, this is weird. What am I doing different than my peers that I was passing them? And the only thing that happened for me was I had a mentor who was guiding me through things that I didn't always like sometimes. I almost quit. My mom talked me into staying, but because I want to play this. And he's like, well, okay, but here's how we're going to accomplish that. And he made me go down to some things. He basically guided me, and I chafed against it. And now I do think it's even worse as an adult. If you haven't had mentors like that then you work with somebody and they want you to go a different direction, it's sometimes a little tougher as an adult. But I had this great experience as a young kid, and therefore I learned the value. And since then, I've spent the rest of my life looking for somebody to help me. Now, when you started playing baseball, do you remember who one of your first mentors was privately?
Yeah, I took a lot of lessons from Reggie Smith, who was a longtime major league player. And I had a few coaches growing up in baseball that you took me to initially because you were smart enough to realize that you never played baseball and you didn't really know anything about it. So you found people that did for me to learn from.
Yeah, I knew less than nothing about it. Matter of fact, baseball was always the sport that I'd watch the first couple innings, I would nap, and then I'd watch the end. So, and in terms of playing it, I barely played it as a kid. I used to say, I don't like baseball when I was a kid. And that was because I didn't have any mentor. My mom, single parent. I didn't have anybody teaching me how to play, or I didn't have anybody to throw. So I wasn't good at it. And of course, as a kid, I would just, my self-defense was, oh, I don't like it. I did later develop a love for baseball through you and what you were doing. And so somebody like Reggie Smith was local here in the LA area, and I think he coached in one of the Olympics, he was doing the team. But point being, Donnie was exposed to some really, really great mentors and coaches early on. And then I see that carry out. Now, here's voiceover. Do you have a rough idea how many projects you've done?
Getting close to 10,000 now.
Okay.
Definitely over 9,000.
Okay. And then he's broadcast thousands and thousands of games. So he's been on mic just, tens of thousands of hours at this point. And so do I remember in the last year you have a new coach for voice?
Yeah. For my sports broadcasting, I started working with a coach who was working to adjust some very subtle things with how I use my voice in certain moments in a game. Really, we've been working on uh, moments that only happen maybe a couple times in any game. Some games they might not happen at all, but what kind of note do you hit in those moments, and more importantly, how do you hit those notes? How do you produce those sounds in an organic way, in a sustainable way? with your voice. And it was very uncomfortable at first. It still kind of is. I'm still working on some of the things that she's taught me and figuring out how to apply them in a live situation, because it is counter to what I was doing before, to what I thought was the right way. So there is that initial discomfort, and there is that initial feeling of maybe going slightly backwards before you can go forwards. But that's part of the process with any good mentor, isn't it?
Oh, always, always, always. So I moved to LA and started working with some of the best musicians in town. And it took me about 3 weeks to realize, yes, I was a big fish in a little pond when I came out, and then I come into this big pond. I don't know anything. I mean, I got hit really hard with some people that were world class, and they were really humble about it, but they just kind of laughed at me behind my back. I didn't realize it at that time. I look back and I think, oh, they're thinking of this kid. But so from a voiceover perspective, you already have tremendous experience. I know you've broadcast thousands of games, and now you're going back. Now, this person is free, right?
I wish.
Okay. So let's talk about that. Why don't you just go ahead on the internet and find some people that could help you do this? I mean, there's so much free information available. Why are you wasting your money with this person?
Yeah, well, when it comes to both sports broadcasting and voiceover, I do watch tons of YouTube content, and that's great. I mean, it's one of the joys of living in this modern era. There's so much information available for free, and we should be taking advantage of that. But you also have to curate, and you also have to figure out what's worth listening to and what isn't. And even when you find somebody that you like, that you resonate with, that you learn well from, you still have to sift through all of their free material and try to figure out how to piece it together in a coherent way, in a way that works for you. And so eventually, when you find somebody that you really like, that you learn from, you're going to want to pay for maybe their more advanced courses, or their courses where it's all laid out for you in a specific path, in a specific way, because that's ultimately going to save you a bunch of time, even if you have to invest a couple $100, $300, $400 up front. When I started doing voiceovers, that was a ton of money for me, and I hated spending that money. But a couple of those courses that I took early on as I was getting started have paid for themselves exponentially. I mean, thousands of times over, because what I learned in those courses springboarded me to start making money in voiceover and be able to have a career where I get to do it every day. Yeah. So that's so key, to move from the free stuff for the people that are worthwhile to the paid stuff where it's laid out for you in a way that saves you a bunch of time.
Yeah, and I'm guessing now you're working privately with this person now, so they're working specifically on the areas that other people may not realize are a quote weakness. I mean, if I hear you say goal or whatever you say in soccer or football, I don't know whether you sound great to me, okay? And I'm so objective at that. But you know that there are things that you could do better, so you have somebody that's just specifically working on your ability. When someone hits a home run in a baseball game, for you to have that moment where you express the joy that an announcer, a play-by-play guy has to have for that event. Is that correct?
Yeah, we all love our moms, and our moms are all fantastic, right? But we should never rely on our mothers for objective feedback on our performance.
But your exception to that story would be, but fathers are perfect for objective.
Of course, dads always are completely objective in their analysis.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, it's great that our family members, not just our moms, hopefully our family members are very supportive and think we're great. That's great.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily mean they're correct in their assessment all the time. Chances are we have things we need to improve on that they might not hear, simply because they're not trained in that particular area. They don't have a sophisticated ear or eye or whatever it may be. So it's important to find people that really know and understand at a deep level what you're doing and trying to do, who can give you that objective feedback.
Well, great. Well, Gene Stewart, which was my instructor when I was the gentleman I talked about originally, my Motown session player guy, he would always say to me, look, and after I got to be about 18, I'd been studying with him for 4 years. He said, hey, I hope you keep studying with me. He did say that. He wanted me to keep doing that. But he said, over time, you need to develop at least 3 mentors. And he said, you need to also study with people outside of me. He was so comfortable in what he was doing, and he was so good at what he was doing. He was not afraid to have me. And then he did explain to me, there's this one minor thing that you will go through, and that's that you will have different high-level people tell you the exact opposite thing. And his concept at that point was, look, when you're with the other person, If she wants you to do a certain thing, do it her way. And quit going, oh, Gene told me something else. Yes, and I have reasons for why I do my own things, but if she wants you to go ahead, at the end, you have two ways of doing the same thing and two perspectives. And what you're going to find is my method will work most of the time, but there are going to be cases where what she's doing is going to be stronger for you, and you have the tools to do either. And now it's your job to put together which one in this situation is the best way to go. So he always had this concept that throughout whatever activity you're doing, you're looking for 3 mentors. He did say, hey, sometimes you may go through 5, 6, 8 guys, gals, people who are on your quest to find your top 3. And you may do 1 or 2 lessons with somebody and realize, nope. But sometimes from the outside, you just can't tell. And yeah, occasionally lose. Then you'll find gold. And when you find that one person, they'll pay for all that. Yeah, you took a couple lessons from somebody. But he said, and this is what I proved to myself. Sometimes those people taught me what I don't want to do. So they didn't directly get me further toward what I wanted to do, but they also gave me some insights and gave me some life lessons about either I don't want to handle myself in business the way they did. I don't want to handle myself personally, the way they criticized me or the way they attempted to assist me. So all that stuff paid off later. Any similar things for you if you had people that didn't work out?
Yeah, sure. I've paid for courses too that I got through them and went, really wasn't worthwhile. But again, so many of the courses that I have paid for, I've made, quite a bit of money on because the ideas they gave me, the knowledge, the information they gave me that I didn't have before, it was huge. And even in the last year or so, I've studied and been in some groups and some mastermind groups with some voiceover people that have really helped me take my business to a new level, just given me ideas that I'd never thought of before, different ways of marketing myself or looking at myself as a voiceover person. So whether you're a beginner just starting out, whether you've been at this for several years or several decades, this is a constantly evolving business, just like life is constantly evolving in general. And we need to continue to learn and stay current and be refreshed in our ideas and our thinking.
Okay, so in other words, I should not try to do it all myself. Is that what I'm hearing?
I would recommend against that.
All right. So in the future, we'll talk about some of our processes for weeding out people and some of the things that we've gone through and the mistakes I've made. I've got more than Donnie, but in terms of the mistake department. But we'll talk about some of the things in the future about how we've gone through lots and lots of different people, and we continue to do it. And we highly recommend to you that you're doing the same thing. Find some people you resonate with. Be careful in that the first thing I tend to do is find someone like me who basically tells me how great I am. That's not the role of your really good mentors. The good mentors are compassionately helping you grow and willing to basically say what Donnie can say to me now as we're peers. He'll say, hey, I don't think that's such a good idea. He's nice about it 98% of the time. And a couple times he's just said, nah, that's a terrible idea. And that's okay because of the way he does it with the proper, your good mentors will be able to tell you. So when you have somebody that you're working with that you respect and they actually tell you, no, and can tell you that to your face, that's one of the little keys of somebody who probably has their head straight in terms of being a good mentor. They should be able to tell you that in a way that you don't cringe and feel like a loser. They know how to do that effectively, but they're not afraid to basically gently, appropriately tell you, not such a good idea, and here's why, okay? If you need that. Any other comments, questions, Donnie, as we wrap this up for today?
Nope, I think that's good stuff. Be sure to check out vojumpstart.com for some great courses on Studio One and RX. Check out redbarnsaudio.com if you want to work with Don one-on-one or submit a free sample to his Expert Ears page where he'll evaluate how your room sounds for free in a 15-minute consult. And we'll keep doing these as we go forward. Let's all keep learning. Let's all keep growing.
All right. You guys have a fantastic day. Look forward to seeing you on the wires. Talk to you later. Bye.